I've done a lot of work. Some patterns that used to run my life don't anymore, or at least not as loud. And also some things hadn't moved. Same specific triggers, same specific patterns, and same reactions in the same situations, with different people wearing the same costume. And for a long time, I had a story about that. The work takes time, you spiral upward, not in circles, you are not back at the same place, you are passing through a similar altitude with more awareness, which I still think is true. But I also think that I've been using that story to avoid a more uncomfortable question. What if some of the work I've been doing was actually a more sophisticated way of not doing the work? That one sat with me for a while. I came across this idea recently, not new, that the ego is a shapeshifter. The less self-aware you are, the less work it has to do to stay hidden. But the more you develop, the more you read, practice, build a framework, the more sophisticated its disguise has to become. And then this. There's no safer place for the ego to hide than inside the spiritual path. Because the more inner work you've done, the better equipped the ego is to look like inner work. The more fluent you are in the language of transformation, the more convincingly the avoidance wears that language. So you can be meditating daily, doing ceremonies, reading everything, build an identity around this, and still be using all of it to not look at the actual thing. Not consciously, you are not lying to yourself on purpose, of course. The costume just got really good. And I say you, but I mean me. I'm very specifically talking about me here. And the version of me that can explain my patterns in real time, map the attachment style, name the wound, trace it back to the source, and still repeat the pattern. Not because I don't understand it, because understanding became its own way of not feeling it. And the analysis creates just enough distance from the thing that you can study it without touching it. For a long time, I was very articulate about wounds I hadn't actually integrated. Understanding them felt like progress. It took a while to see that articulation was part of the avoidance. There is a name for this: spiritual bypassing, using spiritual beliefs to avoid the unmet needs and unresolved wounds underneath them. And I've talked about this one on the channel before. What I hadn't fully sat with is how specific the list gets, because it's not just the obvious stuff. It's using the language of non-attachment to avoid admitting you are hurt. It's using the concept of forgiveness to skip the part where you actually feel the anger. It's using "I'm still integrating" as a reason not to change anything. It's calling avoidance protecting your energy. Now, I've done all of these. I'm not speaking from outside this. And here's what makes it so hard to catch. The bypass doesn't feel like avoidance. It feels like growth. It feels like you are being mature, evolved, non-reactive. You've broken your finger. You're refusing to look at it. You put a very spiritual bandage over it and you're walking around talking about the beautiful lessons in physical limitation. The fracture's still there. You just can't feel it anymore. That's what I think some of my practice has been. Not all of it, but enough that it's worth saying out loud. Here's the other piece I've been sitting with. There's this observation. I think it's Eckhart Tolle. When you surface, reality is relatively comfortable. You're not actually motivated to go deeper. Not perfect, not easy, but fine enough, manageable. And when things are manageable, you keep finding stimulating things to do, interesting content, and activities that feel like the work without being the work. He called it flying to Paris. Go somewhere interesting, have a nice meal, find something stimulating. Why go to the deeper thing when things are fine enough? And I thought about how much of what I've done falls into that category. Not bad things, genuinely useful things. Reading books that matter. Watch videos that land. Having real conversations about consciousness and integration and the nature of the self. Very sophisticated Paris trips. What I eventually saw was that I'd gotten skilled at managing the discomfort that would have pushed me somewhere real. Processing it just enough that it stopped being urgent. Contextualizing it, find a framework, making it into something. The processing itself had become the Paris trip. So, here's where I'm landing. Not a conclusion, more like a direction. I've been trading the gap, the distance between who I say I am and who I actually am in the moments that matter, as a problem to eliminate, evidence of failure, something to explain or fix. What if it's just where I am? What if it's just the honest place to start from? I found this line recently. A poet named Machado wrote, "I dreamed I had a beehive inside my heart, and the golden bees were making sweet honey from my old mistakes." Honey from old mistakes. I don't know, something about that just landed. The idea that the pattern you are most frustrated by, the thing that won't quit, that's a material, not the obstacle to the work, the actual work. And I think the real shift, the one I've been circling around, isn't understanding the pattern better. It's being willing to feel it instead of studying it, to let it land instead of contextualize it, to stop performing the integration and actually be in it, which looks messier and feels a lot more real. There is a question I've started asking myself when I notice the pull to perform something, when I feel the urge to frame something a certain way, to say something that makes me sound further along than I am, to package an insight before I've actually lived it. Who is saying? Who is this for? Identify the I behind all of this by tracing back to the spiritual person the mind has created. Do the I intend to use the new framework or spiritual practice to reinforce the specialness? Is it for the person I'm talking to? Is it for the version of me I want to be seen as? Is it for the part of me that needs to feel okay? The spiritual ego survives on being seen as evolved. It needs to be the one who's figured this out, and it will use every framework, every vocabulary, every genuine insight you've ever had to maintain that position. The question, who is this for, catches it every time. It's a small thing, but small things asked honestly have a way of opening up big things. I've asked about this channel too, and the honest answer is that some of what I've made came from a real place, and some of it came from wanting to feel like I had this figured out. Knowing the difference changed how I make things. So I don't have a conclusion. I don't have 5 steps or the framework or the thing to do tomorrow morning. What I know is that the honest version of this, the one where you actually look at the gap instead of explaining it, is slower and less aesthetic than the version most people are selling. It doesn't resolve neatly. It looks like someone sitting somewhere ordinary, saying something true. But I think that's closer to the actual work than anything I've made that looks better. If you are somewhere in what I described today, you've done a lot. Some things have changed. Some things haven't. Something isn't adding up. I genuinely like to hear it. If you want to go deeper on the spiritual bypassing, what it actually looks like, and how to catch it in yourself, I made a separate video on exactly that. It's on the screen now. If this resonated, a like or subscribe helped this channel to reach the people who are searching for it. See you in the next one.